Welcome to this episode of the Customer-Centric Retailing Podcast, a forum for retail leaders to discuss industry trends, challenges, and opportunities.
This is Anil.
And this is Fabi, and each episode we invite some of the brightest minds in the industry to discuss the future of customer centricity, with topics ranging from the rise of e-commerce to brick-and-mortar operations, to omni-channel technology to retail culture, and how all of these elements come together to create customer-centric retailing. Today we have with us Alison Hop, Vice President of Commerce at Ministry of Supply and former Director of eCommerce for David Yurman. She has a demonstrated history of success, particularly within the online shopping realm within the luxury retail industry. Welcome to the podcast, Alison. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. We're doing well as well, and we're really excited to have you on the podcast today. Before we jump in, I thought we could start with you giving our audience a little intro to yourself just to get us rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I'll try to make it quick. So my name is Alison Hop. I am the Vice President of Commerce at Ministry of Supply. We're a Boston-based clothing company. So we sell men's and women's product, everything kind of based in science and really innovative materials, innovative sourcing. So it's very kind of work-friendly, life-friendly, a really great company. So my background in particular, so I'm in Boston now. I've been here for about a year. I was in New York prior to this, so I've been in the specialty retail space for a while. So previously I was with David Yurman as the Director of eCommerce. And before that, I was with Michael Kors and Jay McLaughlin, which are both New York-based as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As a former Bostonian, I am very familiar with Ministry of Supply, and it's so great to have you on, and I'm excited to dig into your background, particularly as it relates to e-commerce at a variety of different brands. There are so many topics we can cover with you today, but I wanted to start off today's episode asking you about the increasingly competitive nature of the retail industry, which has, in many cases, resulted in what's known as a race to the bottom. So I'm curious what your approach has been in terms of standing apart from the competition without engaging in that aggressive price comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the last year has emphasized that even more. It kind of escalated and really kind of shot all of those problems to the forefront for everybody. I think we all had to, no matter what, type of industry you're in or what sector of the retail industry you're in, we've all kind of had to rethink what our strategy is. And in a difficult year when often discounting or marking down or running flash promotions was, I think, a great lever for a lot of brands. We're in this moment now where how do we not become dependent on that, and how does that not become kind of a pillar of who we are as a brand? So I think for us, and I think everyone handles it a little bit differently. For us, we hold kind of our production and kind of our material sourcing and kind of the science behind our products as one of our most important differentiators. And so for us, kind of that transparency for customers in terms of how we built this product, why we built this product, why we love this product is so important to us. I think, that's kind of the philosophy behind our product, but more importantly, I think diversifying your marketing spend, your marketing channels, kind of opening up your mind to the possibilities of different audiences, more non-conventional ways to meet those audiences, to meet customers is really, really important right now. I think that's kind of a silver lining coming out of the last year that hopefully we're all willing to take more risks and understand that things change all the time and you never know what's coming around the corner. So be as creative as you want to and be as inventive as you want to with how you're meeting other people and how you're meeting customers. And I think that's kind of one of the most important pillars there.
Yeah, I like what you said there about having a differentiator, because I think there are so many different brands out there that if you want a collared shirt, you can go to a million brands out there to get it. So it's tough at this point being a retailer and being able to capture the attention of the consumer. And something that we talk about on this podcast quite a lot is how to make it all about the customer, how to put them at the center of the shopping experience and make them feel like the most important person in the world when they enter your store or when they receive a package from you. So I'm curious how you've been approaching that at Ministry of Supply.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for us, it's been a really unique problem statement over the last year. So obviously, we had 6 retail stores And currently we are hoping to open back up our Boston store kind of as soon as the spring hits, which is looking really great. But we often relied on kind of the interactions that we had with our customers, kind of firsthand information from them, from those, face-to-face interactions in our stores. We always had really strong relationships with our store managers, with the customers in the market. So for a long time, we relied on a lot of that information straight from our customers. We were able to kind of service them on a one-to-one and an individual basis. But the last year has been really interesting in kind of how do you translate that online when it's not safe to go outside, when, more people are probably comfortable shopping online. So I think there are a few big and small things that you can do there. We implemented a chat functionality on our site that's not just a chat bot, it's not just customer service, it's truly styling and product recommendations, which I think a lot of brands have moved towards that as well. That has been particularly interesting. I think all of us have had the opportunity to jump on there. We kind of do little coverage shifts just to keep us all plugged in. I think having those conversations with customers is really important. We send a lot of emails directly from Aman or Gihan, who are our founders, from their personal, they send them from their personal email addresses. It includes their cell phone numbers, and really encourage customers to reach out directly to them as well. So we try as hard as we can to continue to have those conversations. We've also really doubled down on how we understand our site metrics and how we understand kind of site interaction. So going beyond just your AOV or your conversion rate, we spend a lot more time on kind of where are our customers spending time on our website, and how do we pinpoint where we have room for improvement. And I think things we have launched with an app that's kind of a 3D virtual fit app, which allows you to plug in your measurements, your height, your weight, and it'll suggest not only the size for you, but you can kind of oscillate between sizes, and it'll show you what that fit, what that cut will look like on your body type. And I think anything that you can do that's in that realm, that's kind of making an experience personal and helping the customer understand that, like, we want you to make the best decision for yourself. We want to give you all of the information you could possibly need, but not overload you with information also, is, making someone's life easier is the best thing I think that you can do to help them. So anything that we can do is really what we're focused on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much that you've said there, actually. It was hard for me to even keep count as you were going through them, that you've done to really put the customer at the center of your shopping experience, which I think is really great. And the first thing that came to mind, just hearing you list out all of these incredible initiatives and omni-channel initiatives and bringing the in-store experience online, is what did that implementation process look like for you? Was it really difficult to take that on during a pandemic? Or was this something you were already working on beforehand? Did the pandemic make you really have to accelerate timelines at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think omni-channel marketing or commerce has just the kind of market representation has just skyrocketed over the last year. So I think there are a few things that set us up really well to be able to take that on and to be able to pivot that really quickly. And a few of those are not very exciting, but I think kind of those foundational elements of like having a connected POS system, right? I've worked for organizations that had a brick and mortar presence first, digital presence came later, and kind of grew into two very different branches of the company on different systems, different platforms. I think we probably all had that experience of calling, a CS and looking for information on your order. And it's either because you place this online, we don't have that information in the stores, or you've ordered it in the store, I can't see it, from online, you'll have to call that store. Little things like that, and just making sure that your integration is seamless and that your system is seamless and that you're capturing all of your customer data, order information, record of communication in one place, I think is incredibly important. So we were lucky in that we were already set up with a pretty seamless integration between online commerce and in-person commerce. But I think those lines will continue to be blurred. So I think it's something, when I came on board at Ministry of Supply a little over a year ago, one of the biggest kind of calls for me was that they were really interested in pushing that to the next level of making sure that our commerce team and our retail team were never grew into two separate teams, that they really became one. And that was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in more ways than we knew, because right now we truly have integrated both of those teams within our organization. When we talk about a product strategy, we don't talk about channels anymore. We obviously talk about kind of where and how to talk about it, but We really think of it as one channel and kind of one service and one purpose, which is reaching our customers however they want to be reached.
What you're saying right now is like music to our ears because we preach it all the time. We say customers don't care about channel, retailers are the only ones that care about channel anymore, and customers don't care whether they're shopping on Instagram or on your website or in store. And exactly as you said, customers are really ping-ponging between online and offline right now. So maybe they'll browse on your website, then they'll visit a store if we weren't in a pandemic, and then maybe they'll check out online on their phones. So it's really kind of difficult to discern what that journey even looks like anymore. And in order to actually support that type of buying journey, I think it's important for retailers to really have full visibility, which is exactly what you said. And I think Ministry of Supply is ahead of the curve in that sense because a lot of retailers don't have that. But I'm curious, as you're talking about all of these experiences, what types of omni-channel experiences are really catching your eye? Is there anything that you're seeing that makes you think we really need this to make sure that our customers are well served? And what do you think the biggest challenges are from an implementation standpoint? Is the pandemic the biggest challenge, or is it something else?
Yeah, I think there are a few things there. So I think I'll give you kind of one example of something that we built that we thought we had to have, which was buy online, pickup in stores, or a seamless curbside pickup service. So that was something that really early on, when we recognized that we would be closed for longer than we originally anticipated, we thought we have to build BOPUS. We have to build BOPUS because that seems like such kind of a foundational element of any brand to kind of go omni-channel. And I think a big lesson that we learned from that was that to think outside of the box a little bit and kind of understand, we were small enough and our stores were close enough to our customers. We could have run that without needing to build kind of an infrastructure and an entire system for it. So I think taking low-hanging fruit and kind of piloting initiatives and testing them is always a good idea before you kind of go, headfirst into something. I think the challenge, though, going forward is really going to be, what does the retail landscape look like over the next 12 months? So, the last 12 months, we've been very at home. Everyone's been at home, but thankfully, vaccine rollout is getting a lot better, I think, across the country, across the world. So how are people going to want to go back to stores? I think, I'm sure you've had this conversation at your organization as well. We'll probably be looking at a hybrid work environment going forward. I imagine we'll also have a hybrid retail environment. So things that we're really focused on is appointment booking, or exactly as you said, kind of that dual shopping, whether that's in person or online, and making it a little bit more seamless than it maybe previously was. So we're asking ourselves questions like, do we hold regular store hours? Do we hold a regular a traditional retail space where you have inventory of everything, or do we shift more towards a showroom functionality? Do we turn our space more into kind of an experiential opportunity where you get to just kind of interact with the brand, and it's a little bit more kind of artistic in the implementation, and it just helps you maybe if people aren't interested in shopping in person as much, but they still want to connect and understand who we are, maybe our space becomes something like that. So I think it's really just working through how to become that kind of dual purpose and hybrid shopping experience as well.
So also, I'm thinking about it here. So are you seeing that more and more customers would actually be placing order online and maybe pick up at the store, or maybe get it delivered at the home, but come to the store mostly for the brand experience sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely something, I think, even pre-pandemic, something that we saw really often, which again is so important to have that view into your customer data, because it's so easy to bucket someone into a non-purchaser if they're hitting your digital channel but not making any purchases. But if you have that multi-touch viewpoint and you can understand, it allows you to kind of cater it to them. So absolutely, I think that was very much something. Or you go in for your fit, right? If you haven't shopped at the brand before and there's one down the street from you, I don't know what size I am in this brand, or I want to make sure I'm ordering the right size. We had a ton of customers who would come in, try a couple of our core styles on, and then go home to make their color selection, their fit selection, or kind of any of the above. Absolutely, I think is so important.
Yeah. Also, you talked about that you just introduced your buy online pickup in store and all that. So what do you think as we go into this post pandemic situation, like as people start coming out more are comfortable coming out, do you think it will have some strong impact on your conversion online conversion rate, because I think you did not have it before pandemic, and then you launched it during pandemic. So what are you expecting, like this BOPIS journey that you have provided to your customers? Do you expect to see certain percentage bump in conversion rate from your online sales?
Yeah, I think we'll see, right? We've kind of tabled even activating BOPIS for right now. We ran it for a little bit and realized that it maybe wasn't the right time for it. Again, very early on in the pandemic, when we realized like this is what we thought customers would want, but actually the easiest thing is for it to come to your home, right? So I think we will continue to consider it. And I think we will continue to be cognizant of kind of how that's affecting how we're measuring success across any channel, right? So it's absolutely still successful if you see some of that traffic from in-person move online or online move in person. Another great point of kind of focusing on the omni-channel experience versus a channel specific, so you can kind of understand how to balance those metrics. But I think the future is close, but still unknown in a lot of ways. And I really think that kind of accepting that and understanding that we'll see what starts to happen. We're all shoppers, we're all kind of consumers as well. So we have so many discussions around what are you doing and what do you want to do and what do you want to see from your favorite brands or from the places that you're shopping at in 6 months' time. And we're really trying to base kind of a lot of our roadmap on that and not on kind of preconceived notions that we already had.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I don't know if this is relevant. There are a lot of surveys that we come across all the time where they say that if you are publishing your in-store inventory on your website, that helps in conversion. So maybe with the BOPIS, you also have that. Now you have that information, store inventory information available that you could publish on your product detail page.
Yeah, I think, exactly. It sounds a little cheesy, but like knowledge is power. So I think the best thing before you can even move towards the step of like, how do you want to pick this up is like, what's your zip code and what's available near you, right? And that allows a customer, like, how quickly do I want to get this? If I need it tomorrow, is it worth it to me to drive to pick it up? If not, I'd rather get it this weekend, but just understanding like where that sits, how long it'll take to get to you based on where you are. I think is infinitely important and could be much more kind of specific. So yes, we're absolutely considering that as well.
Yeah, because like a lot of people say that when customers come in to pick up the item in the store, they are also probably going to buy something else. So essentially increasing your basket value, right? So that helps in that case. And also one other interesting thing I've seen on your website is the return policy. That is very good, like 100 days. Like we've heard of 30 days. Most common is like 30 days, but you have like 100 days. So where does this 100 days come from? Like that's an interesting number actually.
Yeah, so I think it really comes. We really believe in our product. We really want customer. It's so much better for us if someone makes a first purchase, wears it for a few weeks, decides they really don't like it or something really doesn't work for them. We would rather them let us know that. That's data, right? You find oftentimes that, I'm sure you've experienced this, you get something, you wear it, you rip the tags off, you wash it one time, and you're like, ugh, this is not for me, and it kind of gets tossed in the back of the closet. That's kind of a connotation that you have with that brand now of kind of that's your memory of them. So for us, it's twofold that we want customers to be happy. We want them to feel really good and feel good when they're wearing our product. But we also want that information. We want to understand why it didn't work for them. Did it shrink? Did post-washing, something didn't feel quite right? We go through rigorous testing. So if there's something that slipped through the cracks on our end, that's only going to help us kind of iterating it going forward. So we it's a little selfish in that sense as well, that we're like, we want that data and we want to understand why you ended up not liking it or why it didn't work for you. So we try to be pretty flexible and always look for that feedback when possible.
Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. I'm going to remember this and going to quote it so many times all over and over and again, because people generally try to even hide the option of returning. Like, on their website, they don't want to customers to be thinking about returning an item. On the other side, you actually did list out key benefits of allowing customers for returning, because that's the good, most reliable way of capturing information about our product. So That's important. And also, like, along with BOPIS strategy, I'm sure you will have your BORIS strategy where customers can come in and return in the store. And that increases, again, there are studies that say that when customer comes in to return, most probably they'll buy something else to replace that item and maybe buy a few more things. So again, there's not really a business loss. Essentially, you retain your revenues from that sale.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that is definitely kind of a cornerstone of the in-person experience. We've been thinking a lot about how to kind of bring that online, or how do we translate the ease of that, or kind of that suggestion. I think there's a few great kind of technologies and things that are out there right now. One that I personally utilize all the time is kind of the immediate credit. If you've return something for a few websites, and they'll give you that credit to shop on the website right away, which I think is so great. And it's perfect when it's something that you're like, I know I just got the right size. I don't want to do, I think we're moving so quickly past kind of the packing slip where you have to enter your return reason and you have to wait for it to hit the warehouse for 2 weeks. Then they process it. Then you get your product back. I love the instant store credit. You can use it right away, which I think is incredible. I think we're also working on, which kind of takes it outside of that experience, but a lot of return services are integrating kind of multi-point drop-offs too, where you don't have to go to the post office. Maybe your returns drop-off is at a Walgreens, or it's at some other kind of local drop-off spot. I think anytime that you can make that process easier and make customers feel like it's not an incredibly kind of time, a time building exercise in order to kind of take that action, they're always going to be more likely to try it again. You probably wouldn't want to try something else out if you're like, I love this product, I love the material, it doesn't fit me well, I think I should have gone with a different style. If it's a huge pain to get it returned, it's likely that you're not going to give it another shot. So I think even just removing that friction makes a huge difference.
No, this is amazing. In fact, I'm super impressed with this whole return policy thing, and I'm sure what it means is that you care to build a good brand following, build a customer, and you want to retain that customer for a long time. So, one of the things that I've seen, like a lot of companies who have their loyal customer base and who mean to retain their customer, they generally also take advantage of pre-orders. So like when a new style comes in, they already know that there is a fan following for their brand and for certain kind of styles and things. So they start when the new catalog comes in, they pre-launch it and make it available to the customers, and so they can place orders online and start capturing those orders. And then once the inventory becomes available, it can get shipped out to the customer. Particularly your long-term loyal customers, actually, because they trust the brand, they know they like it, they end up placing orders for all those pre-ordered items. What's your thought on it, and how do you see if it would fit in your business strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think pre-order is such a great tool. I think if done, kind of correctly and seamlessly, it can be really, really successful. So for us, we also very much see it as an opportunity to kind of continue to focus on sustainability within our business. We're climate neutral certified. Gihan, one of our founders, sits on the board, the climate neutral board as well. So we're kind of always looking for opportunities to not overproduce. So there's a few things that we already do in that sense that we're really cognizant of. The POs that we place, we do, we have a ton of time and care into kind of only ordering the number of units that we think that we need. That being said, one of the most important things for us, even to garner interest or kind of gather how excited customers are for our products, several times a year when we have these really big launches that are usually kind of small orders, that it's something that we're testing, it's something that's really new to us that we're really excited to get feedback on. We do exactly that. So we have a group of customers that we call our concierge customers. And so we will pre-launch it with them in a few different ways. So we always give them a heads up that it's coming and say, if we're going to continue to keep you on this list, let us know if you would like even earlier access to it. So we offer early access and we launch it for them even when the inventory does arrive. So plug for anyone who wants to be part of our concierge list. It's really great because they get kind of first dibs on their size, and we sell out really quickly, especially when it's those really small orders. So it's amazing because they get their hands on it first. We're able to offer something exclusive, but the best thing about that is that those are the customers that we know really well, that we have a great relationship with. They give us so much valuable feedback. So there have even been times when if we got feedback on something, we were able to pivot kind of the final PO for that product before it even comes in, which just makes it a better product for the rest of our customers. So I think it's a great tool for loyalty, and a lot of times it's a win-win for everyone.
I think you're gaining a very loyal customer in Anil right now because sustainability is a very big thing for Anil as well. And so what I love about what you talk about is when you talk about what the brand and when you talk about your experiences, it's almost always we're trying this because we want to see what our customers say, and if they don't like it, we'll change it. And so you're very adaptive, and it doesn't seem like you guys sleep at all, which is great because I think customer preferences are always changing, and it's important to change with them. I did want to ask you, since we've been talking quite a lot about technology and how you technologically enable these things, I'm curious as we think about maybe one day returning to normalcy and going back in store, what role do you think store associates will play or that human connection is going to play at Ministry of Supply?
Yeah, absolutely. I think hybrid is the word that kind of comes to mind for me there. Like, what does a hybrid role look like? So again, because we're pretty small, we were able to be really agile throughout the pandemic. So for the first, I believe through August or so, when we launched that chat kind of functionality on the site, the people powering that were our store teams. And so everyone from our retail locations were working from home, but they were tackling any customer questions, styling questions, fit tips that came through that. So I think there's going to be this digital arm of kind of a retail associate role. And I think every brand will be different, every company will be different, but kind of as a whole, I think gone are the days of kind of not having technology in the stores, whether that's communicating directly with customers. We have like a video chat functionality within that chat service as well, which I think is so great. We also had our retail teams supporting things like social media and like helping us produce really fun content. We did a few programs that we had been wanting to pilot for a long time. We did kind of a surprise and delight campaign where we shipped out product to some of either our top customers or customers who hadn't shopped with us in a while, again, to get that feedback and say, here's something free, no strings attached. We would just love to hear what you think about it when you wear it. And you often have to have manpower behind that to kind of facilitate some of those programs and make sure you're matching people with the right thing. So we enabled a lot of our store team members to focus on that as well. So I think in the future, we'll look at these hybrid roles. We love the idea of someone coming in with a passion, whether that passion is for photography or for community outreach or running events. And we say, all right, half your job is working in the store. The other half of it, let's workshop it and see what you're interested in and what the company wants to test out too. So I think we'll absolutely move towards those hybrid roles in general.
One other thing I really noticed all the way in this whole episode we've been talking about, you've been using word commerce and not using e-commerce or any of that. So tell me a little bit about how did you come to use this word? I'm really so far all these episodes we've had, right, and so many conversations I have with all these retailers. I never had any interaction with the retailer who had dropped E out of that whole commerce thing. So yeah, I'm curious. When did you start picking up, and when did you drop this E out of this whole e-commerce thing?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm smiling because it's a funny kind of, not a story, but it's something that we've talked about a lot, even in the time that I interviewed here. So when I first started chatting with the team over a year ago now, they were framing it as kind of a director of e-commerce role of we want to bring this new role on. We've never had someone in this position before. I think that's what we're looking for. So because I had been sitting in a director of e-com role previously, it was a really easy kind of seamless transition to have that conversation. But as we started looking at what that role was and what we really wanted to do with that role, it became really clear that what we really wanted was someone to lead an omni-channel business. So, my partner in crime at the organization was our ran all of our retail locations. So she's kind of my go-to, my number one. She is our director of merchandising, but was also directly responsible for all of our stores. And so that was when we started having this conversation of like, what do we actually call that? Do we call it omni-channel, which didn't feel quite right for us too, because we try to use that in terms of like omni-channel marketing and making sure that you're hitting everyone where they should be. And we didn't want it to be kind of a term that everyone has heard so many times that they wouldn't understand kind of how to digest that. And that was when we said, let's drop the E. It's all commerce, right? We're just focusing on how the customer wants to shop and where they want to shop. But it's been funny, even telling people my title over the last year or so, and kind of having to explain that, because I think it'll become very normal in the next couple of years. But it's still something that we're leaning into.
Alison, this reminds me of those, childhood situations where our parents would, always call out a name of one of our friends and say, see that guy, he's so good at studies, he's so good at all these games and all that. And we will be like really, upset about that friend. We don't want that friend to come to our home, right? I think the way Minister of Supply, your company, you guys have really adopted the modern retailing concepts and the way you are approaching the market and the customer. I'm sure most of the retailers must hate you.
Well, you never know. You kind of look at yourself so much differently. And I think, we had this moment that we talked about from last year during COVID too, where we said we stopped betting on the end of anything. We stopped betting on the end of the pandemic. We stopped betting on when we would go back to normal. And it was a good chance for us to let go of the control a little bit. And we don't know all the answers and we don't know what's going to happen. Last year taught us that. All of the planning, we had just remodeled 2 of our stores the day before kind of the pandemic hit. You just can't plan for the future. So we've really tried to embrace, for better, for worse, kind of that agility. And we've had to do it kind of top down, from what our product offering is to how we offer the product. So we've gotten very comfortable with being uncomfortable and kind of, you always want to know everything, and we don't, but we can stay flexible. And that's really what we focused on.
Anil thinks you guys are the cool kids on the block. I did want to ask you as kind of a final topic as we're wrapping up, because you brought up social media and marketing a couple of times in our conversation, and I wanted to make sure to touch on social media, particularly social media marketing, because there are a lot, especially of direct-to-consumer retailers, that rely on Instagram, on Facebook to really get their products out there. Obviously, Instagram's recent redesign really put shopping at the center of the app, but these channels aren't cheap and they keep getting more expensive as more and more retailers start using them. So a lot of retailers are finding success with these channels, but there's also a lot of retailers that are struggling. So I'm curious what your opinion is on that, or what your experience has been with social media marketing, and maybe some advice for retailers that have found that it is a very expensive channel and maybe they aren't getting the results that they necessarily wanted.
Absolutely. This is a very hot topic for us. I would say this was probably, going into 2021, the number one problem statement that we were looking to solve. So, Ministry of Supply 5 years ago had never touched a paid kind of social channel, right? All of their growth was very organic and kind of from the ground up. And then obviously we entered kind of that space and really latched onto it for a long time, right? There's something so addictive about being able to understand and modulate your daily spend and your daily kind of adjustments that you're making, and immediately see the impact. There are so few things that I think you get to do, especially in the retail space and even in the online space, that you can track almost immediately after implementing something. It usually takes a little bit of time to gather data, gather insights, assess it. Facebook makes it incredibly easy that you can see where's your spend going, which ad is performing best, what direction do you need to go in. So I think we probably swung the pendulum a little bit in the other direction, where we relied so heavily. Most of our marketing budget was going towards, our Facebook spend and our kind of paid social spend. Now, what we're working on now is peeling that back just a little bit. So I think there are a few things at play. I think the market is incredibly saturated. So I think brands that, like us, the really important thing about our product is to be able to touch it and to feel it and kind of understand the differentiation, right? You said it earlier, you can kind of take a button-up shirt, or you can take a pair of like lounge pants or kind of work from home pants and shoot them on a white background, and they could look exactly the same as 10 other pairs of pants. Even if they're 10 times better than every other pair of pants, getting eyeballs is so competitive. And so we're so hit and inundated with ads, with messaging, with, just the request to kind of look at us on social platforms like that. So we've really realized it's really oversaturated, and it's not sustainable long-term to depend on it like that. Organic growth and growth based in true interaction and kind of really connecting with your customers is where you're going to see success long-term. So we're working on kind of striking the right balance of we're not going to eliminate kind of using Facebook as a marketing channel for us, because it is really beneficial, especially in retargeting, especially with kind of staying in touch with our customers. But in the meantime, we're also working on, let's be experimental. Let's work with some direct buys on, with some other publications, or let's just branch out, be a little bit more willing to accept that we might not understand if that investment was positive right away, but that no matter what happens, it's going to give us really good information for what we want to do in the future. So that's kind of where we are right now. But future looking, I think, Shopify just launched their first integration with TikTok. It's not available in the US yet, but it is in a few other countries where, you can now shop on TikTok also. And I think the lines will continue to blur. Maybe we'll be here in 10 years and there will be no standalone websites. You will not go to ministryofsupply.com, but you will do all of your shopping on kind of an integrated version of what social and, and other countries and other kind of markets have been doing this for a long time. But I think we'll continue to see it pick up where there's no longer your website and your social presence, that the two are truly blended. So I think that's probably on like the 5-year roadmap, but it's so important for us to start talking about it and kind of understanding that now.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows where we're going to be in 5 years? I love what you said about organic growth. I think that's super important. And I think for the retailers that are listening and that are maybe scratching their heads and wondering why digital marketing isn't working, I think what you said there about data and making sure everything is data-driven is really important. Because the first thing that you said there is that Facebook lets you see which ads are performing best. And I think a lot of retailers turn it on and then they step back for a few weeks and then they wonder why it wasn't working. So I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice there that they can take from what you said. This has been such a great conversation. We really loved having you on. So we really want to thank you for joining us. And as is tradition on our podcast, we like to end with our guests telling our audience what they can look forward to from you and from Ministry of Supply.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been really great getting to know both of you too. So please stay in touch. This has been so great. So in terms of what's coming down the pipeline for Ministry of Supply, I am so excited for this year. So one of the, and not only pivoting kind of what our commerce channels look like, our product design team has taken the same prompt and said, we're not betting on the comeback. We're not betting on when we're going to go back to normal. We're going to have a new normal. And so we've adapted so many of our products to kind of fit this hybrid lifestyle. So not only do we have new silhouettes coming out that, the leg is not as skinny as it previously was. It's a little bit more relaxed. It's maybe not a full zip. It's a pull on. So little modifications like that, but we're also expanding into the home section. So we launched our first blanket last year, and a little sneak preview, we have an incredible duvet that's actually in production right now that we'll be starting to talk about very soon. So we're working on kind of taking that approach that we've always taken to clothing, and how do we build other products for your life that are just as beneficial and just as reliable as the shirts in your closet are. So I'm so excited for that.
That's great. And I'm sure all of the homebodies out there, including myself, are really excited about the home section. And you definitely gained a fan in Anil today. I can tell you that much. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. We really encourage our audience to shop at Ministry of Supply online and when stores reopen. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That's it for this episode of the Customer-Centric Retailing Podcast, featuring our special guest, Alison Hop. Alison sees omnichannel for what it really is, a complete blurring of lines between the online and offline worlds, so so that customers can enjoy a seamless experience no matter where or how they interact with your brand. Ministry of Supply has done an excellent job of adapting to the challenges of the pandemic and to customer expectations to provide a truly remarkable experience. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Please rate and review and recommend to a friend or fellow retail fanatic. This podcast is brought to you by Hot Wax Commerce.